So all of that is just some background. Why I come to this question, these questions, these topics in my master's thesis. Um, I'm gonna say from the beginning, this master's thesis is, I wrote this in 2008. Um, that's what, 16 years ago? Um, the master's thesis has really given me a good foundation to think about some of these issues. Religious studies, theology at Benedictine universities, and the um, that has helped to, but I feel like I definitely have a lot more that I've learned about and probably a lot that I would revise. I don't in any way think of it as my final word on the topic. Actually, it's just basically my first word on the topic. So open to new ideas, new thoughts, and that's where it's interesting to see some of the students' comments in the discussion forum. Um, that So here's a thesis. I guess a thesis, a theory, within the context of Benedictine and Catholic education, in consideration of its benefits for students and faculty of Benedictine universities as a supplement, not as a replacement to the teaching and study of theology at Benedictine universities. The thesis I propose is that religious studies from a phenomenological perspective could significantly benefit Benedictine universities of the US. Kind of a vague thesis now that I look at that. I think my thesis here, or the theories, at this point, it's an unpublished master's thesis. If I ever get around to publishing something, I'm not bound by what I've written previously. So I would come up with something and probably try to, I think, propose something more specific than it could be a benefit. So um, I think uh, I'll probably go through this part pretty quickly and open it up for comments. I felt like as I was looking through my master's thesis, picking out sections so I don't post the whole thing, picking out sections. I thought, yeah, I'll keep this section in, keep that section in, and just uh, have that note to the students, focus on this section. But a lot of this, I think students in this class might have been able to read through pretty quickly to say, okay, here Brother Luke is defining religious studies, but students in this class kind of already know religious studies is already. So it's not like, oh, here's a new concept I need to learn. It's like, I already know this. Okay, now I can kind of skim through. Here, Brother Luke is talking about phenomenology. We already know about that, but it's interesting. Some of the comments I saw in the discussion forum mentioned that it was interesting where I am not just saying like here's information, but some amount of creativity in writing to say teaching of theology or teaching of religious studies at Benedictine universities. It's kind of like teaching music, the kind of analogy of what things are like. Is it better to have someone who plays music? Someone who plays music, are they going to be a better teacher of music? In some cases, probably so, but probably not all excellent musicians are necessarily going to be good teachers of music. Or maybe someone doesn't need to um, play an instrument to be able to teach music history. These kinds of things about, what should the insider outsider question. Oh, yeah, let's see. Yeah, and then some of that, the master's thesis goes into a lot of the history. How actually did religious studies come into Catholic universities? In some cases, such as this, I am referring to one of the textbooks that we've referred to in this class by Walter Capps. So you might recall some of these contents from earlier in the semester where I refer to Capps. So that's kind of another way that this ties in. Right, the Second Vatican Council I just mentioned also had its effects on universities. My thesis kind of gives an overview of Catholic universities and all of this, and Benedictine universities. What is the mission? What are some of the missions of the Benedictines? And getting into, you know, there are two major congregations of Benedictine men in the US. St. Martin's comes from a tradition of Benedictine universities, of Benedictine monasteries that are running universities, whereas there is another congregation of Benedictine men in the US that is running seminaries. So some of these ideas. The idea of institutional diversity, student diversity, faculty diversity. When it comes to institutional diversity, there are public, we call them secular universities. I don't know if people at public universities call themselves secular, but for me and other religious people, we would say they're secular. But sometimes I refer to them as public universities where there is religious studies. Then there are Catholic seminaries where men go to study to be priests and they study theology. Somewhere in all of this, in between are Roman Catholic universities, where there is the study of theology traditionally, basically saying we're kind of modeled after the seminaries, and maybe sometimes religious studies. But religious studies has always been a little bit precarious and somewhat easy to be kind of edged out by theology. Benedictine universities, Jesuit universities, Holy Cross, I mentioned because of Notre Dame being kind of a very significant, but also University of Portland in Oregon, and other religious orders that run universities. So of these, I had a few other points and mentioned for the students to focus on that question of the fear of phenomenology. So